Show me like where you're building these world records and stuff. You and Brianni and some of your other training partners.
I got you. So it's basically like this is Dragon's Lair. We joined up here when it first opened up like 3 years ago. It opened up pretty much exactly the same time we moved out here. This is predominantly a bodybuilding gym, as you can see by all the badass arsenal equipment and badass isolation equipment. But Flex looked at me when we first walked in here, and
Flex
he was
Lewis,
like,
that is.
Flex Lewis, 7-time Mr. Olympia, the 212 division. He looked at us and was like, what can we do to make you guys more successful here? And I was like, oh, maybe a combo rack at some point. And then the guy turns around and has this custom built Arsenal combo rack made for us back here. And then he allowed me, because I used to own that gym in Ohio, I brought all my kilo plates and all my barbells in here, and basically just have a little contingency of really cool power lifters that just really get after it and train hard and make stuff happen, as obvious by my since moving out here, what I've broken that all-time world record that I have like 4 more times since moving out here. Brianni on the deadlift platforms over there, that's where she's worked up to being having the heaviest of all-time deadlift regardless of weight class in female powerlifting, so which is 645 pounds. So she's kicking ass, we're kicking ass, and it's a great spot to do it. So if you're ever in Vegas, check it out.
I love that you it's basically one of each. It's one bench.
Yep.
Or well, 2 benches, I guess, and then you got the deadlift platform over there.
Yeah, this is by no means a powerlifting gym, but like we said during the workout a million times, whether it's you're a powerlifter, bodybuilder, former NFL player, fucking actor, whatever, like everybody in here is training for something that's bigger than themselves. So it's just impossible to push yourself to the next level when you're surrounded by that. Let's start with a cable flight.
I like it, a little pre-pump.
Yep. You want to do them seated? I was planning on seated.
Sure. Typical power lifter, whenever you can sit down.
Making them as easy as possible. See, Jared's been having me do so much of the overemphasized like stretch on the eccentric, like literally almost pausing everything like 1 or 2 count in the stretch, and then just taking like every eccentric like for a 3 to 5 count.
Which is that helping with like mobility?
Yeah, so
just keeping you healthy and stuff too.
Yeah, that's been a huge thing, because it's like we kind of talked about it in the car over here. It's like powerlifters making the switch from powerlifting to bodybuilding. Like I don't want to say I'm like further along than other people, but it's like I have a lot of strength that I've developed.
Yeah.
And it's like I kind of have to use some of the intensity techniques or some of the different stuff.
Right.
Otherwise, I'll just fucking push too hard, and then it's like, I get like 2 weeks of good training and then have to deload immediately. So just kind of milking the slow eccentrics, the pauses, the hard shit.
So how's the nerve stuff feel now, or especially on like flies and movements like this? Do you still feel it?
That's the thing. I could never really feel the nerve injury itself, and there's still a little bit of a lag, because you might see as we go further into the workout when we're doing some of the actual pressing, if anything fatigues, it is my left side first. But the positive behind that is the fact that like I can actually feel my shit contract, because I was never able to feel the left side actually engage. So just being able to do these flies to like pre-tension open up, like get the mobility, but also just some blood flow in there, and then actually go into pressing and be able to feel my left pec and my left tricep, it's pretty fucking cool. That's the biggest thing that I've enjoyed out of the bodybuilding stuff, as simple as it is like the fact that my triceps are sore. Like my triceps weren't sore for like 5 years for a period of time, you know?
Can you explain to us what happened to you? Like, how'd you get hurt?
Yeah, so you guys can plug the video like that. Everybody knows about that bar bend, the incident where the power bar bent around my back and like came to a point. Fuck. Jesus Christ. I got out of it relatively, like, visually unscathed. Everybody's like, oh, he's fine. But I actually herniated 2 discs, and when I herniated the discs in my cervical spine...
That's why he's so short.
Yeah, right, yeah. It cut like 5 inches off my height. But when I did that, it caused compression injuries to my dorsal scapular nerve and my thoracodorsal nerve, which, long story short, caused my pec, tricep, and my lat on my left side to essentially shut off. So I went from being able to bench press like 565 pounds in the gym in 2017 to not being able to lock out 225. And that was over, like, it was on and off, bad and worse and better and whatever for the 5 years after it, until I just recently have been able to get back to, like, fighting territory again, because nerve injuries take like years to heal. And that was the frustrating part. Because like you said, it's not a matter of I felt it. I just couldn't work my arm. Like, I would go to push, and it just wouldn't go. This would fly up, and then this would just fucking keel off, go this way, whatever. I just couldn't do it. So it's...
But hit your set, and then we'll talk about how you rehabbed it after the set.
Sure.
So for you, like making some of these exercises a little bit more difficult, so you have more, like, leeway and play with the amount of volume, the amount of sets, the amount of reps.
Yep.
And if you make the exercise, just make the exercise more difficult, taking a little bit longer with the exercise, getting full range of motion. Those are the kind of things that you're probably working on nowadays.
Yep, that's exactly it. Because it's all about, for me, especially coming over to bodybuilding from powerlifting, like, we're talking about the skill aspect of powerlifting, like getting good at using your knowledge of, like, biomechanics and your own, like, movement to deadlift better, squat better, bench better, whatever. You can apply that same type of principle to a movement like a chest fly or like a Smith machine bench press or a lat pull down or whatever. There is some, like, skill development to it. And I'm kind of in the territory of still being able to, like, rely on some gains to occur and get better in that regard. So if I can milk that type of progression longer and just, like, ride that momentum into a bodybuilding prep and into, like, actually getting on stage and changing my physique, then I'm just going to set myself up for the best chance to, like, not only put as much muscle on as I can, but stay injury free. So when I switch back to powerlifting, because that's my goal, like, I'm doing bodybuilding, I want to do it, but I'm a powerlifter at heart. When I come back, I'll be fresher, like, healthier, all connective tissue feeling good, muscles even bigger, be able to, like, rely on the neuromuscular aspect.
A little bit of a recomp of not just your body composition, but recomp of, like, the muscle tissue, your body, probably training volume, all those things, right?
Yep, exactly. And it's like, I think about, obviously, way down the road, I haven't even dieted yet,
right? But
I think about that recomp, the rebound coming off stage. It's like, if my stage weight is like 220 to 230,
right,
but then I come back and try to eat up, I might end up doing the same thing that I had been doing and cut from, like, 255 to 242. And rather than squatting like 851 at 220, it might be like 900 at 242 or something like that. So we'll see. Can't take the power lifter out of the gym, even if you put him in a bodybuilding gym. There you go, Mark.
Something I've learned from running is, like, having these variable inputs is really important. So this is casual pace. Like, this is like zone 2 cardio, because we can have a conversation during this. And at least during this stage of the workout, maybe we'll get into the workout where you're going to see more faces being made, and maybe we'll get to, like, failure and stuff. But as valuable as those things are, as valuable as it is to train with an intensity and to make a little noise sometimes when you're training, I think it's just as valuable to sit here with a stone cold face here like this, nasal breathing, doing the exercise casually, so it's a nice input, especially when we're considering that, like, Joe and I are trying to get our shoulders to open up on this exercise and trying to get a good stretch from it. So when you're doing that, we don't really want this exercise to be like, we don't really want to be going crazy with it. We want to try to relax as much as we can. Can you explain to us a little bit of how did you rehab the nerve? Because that's uncommon for someone to be able to do that. I think you used, like, nootropics and all kinds of interesting techniques.
Yep. used quite a bit of different methodologies and some old school ones where it was just patience and work, but because of the length of time that nerves take to heal, it was just a considerable rehab process. And I did the whole gambit of like physical modalities, like dry needling, like RNT stuff, ART stuff, just a bunch of different like things to exhaust all options. But the biggest benefit that I got was treating it as if it was legitimately a spinal cord injury and like trying to relearn how to use the muscle tissue and doing like the simplest answer is usually the best one, and doing the simplest stuff is usually the most guaranteed to get better. So when I would just kind of take a step back and be like, okay, how do I get my tricep to fire as best as it can? Deplete the energy stores around, so do stuff like this, pre-fatigue some of the areas, and then literally just go into a very coordination focused movement, like a push-up on the flat side of a Bosu ball.
Squeeze
and actually mentally, like with intent, thinking about it, because you said it on the chest flies, like being able to do this with a relaxed face and a relaxed pace is valuable, but that doesn't mean that you're not doing it without intent. It doesn't mean that we're doing this in a lazy way. It just means that we're not getting super intense.
It's also, it's not zero. It's not zero weight.
Right. You're just focused on a different thing. And that's exactly kind of how I approach my training. I took a step back and would even use some things like psilocybin or Nupept or injectable choline to kind of get out of that like high arousal, high hype, like I need to come to the gym and move heavy weight and fuck shit up and whatnot, and really just stay more chill, for lack of a better word, so that I could focus on simply building that connection again and getting more proficient at moving my body the way that I used to be able to.
I agree with that, and I think it takes a certain level of maturity in your training to kind of get to some of these spots. Hard to think this way when you're 15 and you're just starting to train, but the way I look at it is, once you get a little bit of self-mastery around some of these exercises, and once you understand how to lift, you can then not only work out, but you can also work in. And that's exactly what you're talking about. And you're talking about not only just working in, but like finding what's within you to be able to express you being able to flex that left side after having that crazy injury.
How simple is the advice that you would tell anybody? Is like, oh, just work around an injury. And it's like, okay, working around, there's value here. There's value to working around the injury, but sometimes it's just like, it's not only working around the injury, it's working around your own limitations.
Right.
And your own like self-imposed ones.
It's easy for me to stay like here, right?
Yep.
So I can train here, and this is comfortable, but we're trying to do something different, and the weight is light enough, it's an appropriate weight to where I could take this and say, let me work more on what sucks. So I can come up here more, turn the wrists over, even let the weight go into my fingers more, because now I feel that in my elbows. Even turn the wrist up towards the sky.
And I mean, that's what I've talked to so many of the full range of motion, our Renaissance periodization guys about. It's using this stuff as a dual benefit, because like you don't see this normally as mobility work, but what is this? Mobility work, because at that deep position that you find yourself right there, that's pretty open to get under a squat bar, right? If you can get comfortable in there, just coming back to powerlifting, when I do that, it's going to make it all that much more simpler. Or hitting a back double bicep on stage or whatever, you know. Or just being able to reach up in your pantry to get a fucking box of oatmeal. Something.
Oatmeal's for the poor.
Yeah, right?
That's what all the carnivores say.
Yeah. It'll kill you or something.
I love all that stuff.
I know.
I think regardless of whether a lot of this stuff is right or wrong, I do like the conjectures, you know. I think it makes what we do a lot more interesting. Like some people that are like, don't ever do a squat.
Yeah.
It's like, hold on, let me hear what you have to say.
Yeah.
Is the next thing you're going to say really stupid?
Right.
Because then I don't need to hear anymore. But if you're
Right.
going to open my ears up and talk about how we can maybe decompress the spine a little bit, now we can start to have a conversation and say,
It's picking. It's
Right?
it's picking up picking up the beneficial stuff
Yeah.
and leaving the rest. That's
Yeah.
why I've always like not to suck the Mark Bell teat too hard. But that's one thing that I've always admired about like you and your channel is the fact that you're so willing to like talk to anybody.
Try to be open-minded, yeah.
And just be willing to like have that conversation and see like, hey, what is the thing that I can learn from this guy? And I don't need to buy into his whole fucking thing.
right.
But if there's something that's going to get me 1% better, you'd be dumb not to do that.
I think something that might be valuable for you, and you're kind of, I guess, like in this now because you've taken some time off, but like something I could have done in my powerlifting career is I could have legitimately taken time off. I could have legitimately taken time away, but I really didn't. I kind of said that I did, but I didn't. You know, you know what I mean.
I do.
I didn't like really step away from it enough because it was like it was always there. My body weight was always pretty high. I was always on a pretty reasonable amount of gear.
Yeah.
You know, so the strength was.
I'm cruising.
Yeah, it was.
But
all
I'm on 500 tests.
It was all just sitting there, so I could like push the button and go again. And taking off like 3 months or taking off, you know, even 6 months or something like that, just it's not quite enough. So like if you go to make a comeback and something's not feeling right, I would say two things. One, I wouldn't be scared to postpone it and push it back and say, you know what, I'm looking at like August 2025 to be able to hit this number, or late 2025, whatever the number is, whatever the things you want to achieve. So you could postpone as you get into your training. You can kind of see like, I got to build, I got to pull back, and then I got to rebuild again. Or you can even just say like, you know what, I want to see what it feels like to even just take like a legit 2 years where I'm not thinking about any competitions. It's kind of off my mind. And you know what I mean?
I do.
I could have done that, but I just didn't because I was too close to it. I think too close to the sun.
That's the problem with all this,
Right.
you know. Because I mean, even up to this point, I've done the same thing. Because like I was scheduled to compete last October, and I ended up having to pull out of that meet, or choosing, not having to, but choosing to pull out of the meet because there was just too much going on. And even recently, like I've done a similar thing because it's like I wanted to do one more before I go bodybuilding because I'm too close to it. It's the same goddamn story, man.
Right.
You know. But but I do think whether it's by choice or by force, I've kind of finally gotten to the point where, because what you said, like looking at the numbers, August 2025, I'm planning not to get on the platform until 2025.
Nice.
I don't know if it is end of, but I am doing like the bodybuilding show, that is going to be like end of 2024. And then whenever I feel that it's appropriate, I'll be getting back out there. So I'm just not in a rush. And I mean, we talked so much earlier about how all the success that Brianni's having, and I have like a couple other clients who are legitimately in position to take all-time world records and do some crazy shit. There you go, Mark. So why rush it? Good.
Right.
There you go, dude. It doesn't feel like much when you're doing it, but in that stretch and after is nasty. That's a great example of like what so many people on social media don't get, because it's the whole like, oh, you need to do full range of motion. Oh, you need to do this. And it's like, what's so bad about like doing full range of motion? And then you want to get like a little pump at the end, just fucking bang it out.
Yeah.
It's not that big of a deal, you know?
I think some of the partial range of motion stuff, like partial range of motion crew, I think that camp, some of it makes a lot of sense. You might be wearing the tissues out more. They asked Ronnie Coleman, hey, why don't you ever lock out your benches or your dumbbell presses? And he's like, because it hurts my elbows.
It's a good enough reason as any. And that's what.
And it wasn't like he couldn't.
No, exactly.
It wasn't like he couldn't take the 200s for a ride and probably do 15,
right,
20 reps.
Right, with solid reps,
Yeah.
you know. But
he chose to kind of keep him in here
because like,
that's where the tension point was.
Exactly. And like, why would he do otherwise? This is gonna be one of my. I have 2 hard sets, so this is one of them.
A lot of this kind of training takes a lot of patience too. It doesn't matter really whether you're bodybuilding, powerlifting, rehabbing, or prehabbing. There are cases, I guess, you can make where you literally are just kind of having fun, going through the motions, doing drop sets and things like that. But for the most part, things should be pretty intentional, and they should kind of be, I hate to say it, but they're kind of boring. Like it takes a lot of patience to work yourself through a set like this, where you're literally doing the same thing every single time and trying to perform the rep the same way with no slowdown in like velocity, no slowdown in speed. You're not trying to contract harder. You're not trying to explode into it. You're trying to get a similar sensation every time too. So you're trying to feel, okay, I feel a stretch in my pec. I feel a stretch in my bicep. I feel a stretch in my shoulder. Here we go. There you go, Joe. Nice. There you go. Good work. Something else I wanted to mention, you know, Joe talking about how he might not get on the platform again until like, you know, mid 2025. I think for some of the young people out there, I think, you know, I have people come up to me, you probably have people that ask you questions and they're like, oh man, I want to get my like legs bigger. Like I was thinking about doing this program and they want to get like the results in a couple months, and you can get great results in a couple months. But I think that people should really be thinking about stuff, probably almost double the length of what's in their head. Like, oh, I'm going to get in shape in 6 weeks. Hey, how about we turn that to at least 12? And to be honest with you, rather than turn it into 12 weeks, let's turn it into 6 months. Because it really takes a long time. The body can adapt to stuff super fast. Like if we're talking about exercise selection or something, Joe and I could do a floor press this week, and then next week do a floor press and both lift more than we did this week. Because the body knows how to kind of react to that kind of stuff. But when you're talking about more specific, like lifestyle habits, when you're talking about the dieting and you're talking about these inputs of getting stronger over like a longer period of time, these bigger goals, getting your quads bigger, those things, they take a long time, way longer than what you think.
This is heavy.
Yep. I'll probably have to cheat.
Yep, that's totally fine.
So because of the weight we have on here, I'm not going to be able to utilize the exact same form. Sorry, dude. But that's fine. I'm still going to get a good workout out of it.
There you go, Mark. There you go, Mark. There you go, Mark. Good squeeze. Yes.
Woo. Take that one?
Yep.
Yep.
It gets nasty fast because it's one of those like because even you felt it. You hit that stick point,
yeah.
And you're like, wait, I got a little. I'm like,
And you gotta cheat.
Yeah.
You gotta cheat. But you know, I think it's an advantage of some of these exercises. If you're cheating on like a squat, you're cheating on like a deadlift, cheating on a bench, it's just not a great idea. You want to just discontinue the set, really, you know. But on something like this, I think you can afford to like, you know, cheat a little bit. It's a cable machine. The weights are much lighter. I don't really advocate like having your form get messed up too much on too many things, but I think sometimes it's appropriate. Sometimes a little body English is a good thing. You're doing your rows, trying to stay super strict with it, and all of a sudden you realize you got no more power, and now you got to kind of pull your chest up more aggressively, or put your body into it somehow.
Yep. And to that point, like what we mentioned before, like there's so much nuance in the whole, like how do you do like full range of motion, partial range of motion, whatever, and it's like, well, even if why not use really great technique 90% of the time? You get to a point where it's like, oh, I'm going to cheat a little bit to get the weight up, but you're still getting that fully lengthened position. You're still stretched at the end or contracting at the end, so you're still getting it done.
What you're going to notice from exercises like this too is you're going to get really sore.
Yep.
The more stretching involved in your training, the more soreness you're probably going to get, especially at first. So things like lunges, stiff leg deadlifts, exercises like this are probably going to torture you pretty good. What happens a lot of times on a bench press, and the reason why a lot of powerlifters will tear a pec, is they'll get slightly out of position with a really heavy weight. That elbow will get thrown out, and then the person's out here in no man's land, where you're going to miss a lift. Even the great Eric Spoto, one of the greatest benchers of all time, he would miss lifts when his arms were away from his body. You need to keep the arms in close to the body, right? But once the arms and the body start to get away from each other, you're in like a disadvantageous position, and that's when you can snap your shit. So that's why you want to try to work in some of these ranges so that you're training yourself for it. When I was powerlifting, because we have to always talk about my powerlifting career, just like I'm Al Bundy or some shit. When I was powerlifting, the way that I helped my squat wasn't really just to hone in the technique and the form. I did practice that, but to be honest, I wasn't patient enough to really go through that process. So what did I do? I just thought, like, my squats suck. I always look like I'm looking on the floor for change, or I'm like throwing up in a toilet bowl when I do most of my squats. I'd come up out of the hole like this, right? So then I just did good mornings. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is I just lifted out of bad positions. I used to refer to it as lifting like shit. So if you just take all these different exercises that we're trying to get good at, you could take a deadlift, something like a deadlift. If you put the weight out in front of you, you put like a dumbbell in front of you or something, and the weight's now here, you are fucked. You try to lift that weight up. I'm not really saying that's necessarily a great way to build up your back, but if you were able to handle it and you didn't break your back doing an exercise like that, it would build up tremendous amounts of strength in your lower back. So exercises like that, flies, good mornings, all these different things, train yourself to be able to go through a bad position if you do miss it.
You know the Landmine University guys?
Yeah.
The coiling against the wall. And I, like, in any of my, basically any of my unilateral movements, like lunging or single arm, whatever, I just kind of lean into the whole, like, coiling core aspect, trying to connect the right side into the hip, or the right side into the center, into the opposite hip. So even doing like with the bodybuilding stuff, with some of the lat work,
crunching down on one side type deal, right?
Yep. With some of the lat work, I'll do like single arm lat pull downs, but sit away from the actual cable. Then when I'm pulling down, lean into it and pick up the leg, because it's the whole thing. Like, I obviously maybe 1%, 2% more lat involvement, but the big thing is when I come back to powerlifting, I can fucking put that into the back pocket, that into the back pocket, make the most stable position to possibly squat out of. So
yeah, I dig a lot of it too. It's really helpful. Did you do any of the rope flow stuff?
I haven't yet. That's
kind of cool.
That's one.
Maybe if there's a jump rope, I'll just show you. Like, I don't even really know hardly any of it. I only know like the little twirly stuff. But honestly,
I'll
show you a little bit.
Just random conversation. I honestly thought about like implementing that, because I need to get better at like posing. And a huge posing thing is the footwork thing. Oh yeah. And I am just I'm a robot, man. So I don't know.
It'll help you. It'll help you open up too, because a lot of the posing, like, it's you trying to like figure out what to do with like your waist and stuff, and you being like as fucking jacked as you are from powerlifting. Yeah. You'll probably have to figure out sneaky ways to not look so blocky.
Yeah, 100%. Want to do something fun?
Sure.
Let's do the McDonald's bench.
Oh, we're going to go to McDonald's?
Yeah. Maybe after. Have you've used one of these before? The the camber bar.
Wow, look at that thing.
Yeah, you'd love that. I've never. This is the only one of these I've ever seen. But
This fucking looks devastating.
yeah. This guy. Talk about stretch.
Yeah. I think it will stretch you like crazy. Brutal.
2 work sets for me. Whatever you want, 2.
I remember we used to do this a lot with like a board or like a half a board, because like the stretch for a lot of the guys at Westside was like
it's too much.
Was too much. Yeah. Louis is so funny. He's like, I brought that bar into the gym, and 3 months later, 3 guys had torn pecs. And he's like, so I decided we were going to use a board. He's like, but we had to lose 3 good guys first.
That's exactly why you're not going to see me go heavier than 2 1/4 on this fucking thing, because it's great, but I will never go heavy on it.
It seems so dangerous too. This part. Whoa!
Yeah. Oh, I know, dude.
It's like benching and bench shirt.
Yeah. It's like I don't even know if you can get that low. Elbows fucking 3 inches clear past the pad.
Need to go. That's sick. I haven't used that thing in a while.
Yeah. I figured if we'll keep constants.
Oh. Sorry, wrong weight.
No, I know it's all the same. Fucking,
it's not the same.
I know. But
it's too different.
Yeah, right. The center of gravity will be weird or something.
So I saw Mr. Joe Sullivan post a great post the other day about bench pressing. He was talking about squeezing the bar. And I saw a lot of comments where people were like, you're not supposed to squeeze the bar. I heard from this other guy, this other thing. Look, there's always going to be multiple ways to get to things, but in my opinion, you're trying to speak to a large audience. You're trying to help as many people as possible. So it's definitely possible that I might watch someone bench and say, hey, loosen up your grip. It's not that serious. Mm-hmm. You can kind of relax a little bit. But for the most part, you're not going to really see anyone squeeze too hard. And when it comes to like a novice lifter, I'm in firm belief of what Joe was saying, is that I think it's really important, bench, squat, deadlift, not only to grip the bar firmly, but to grab the bar like you're going to fucking lift something. Mm-hmm. Like, and be mentally and physically prepared. Mm-hmm. I think one of the first signals that we get a lot of times when we're about to do something physical, our feet would be involved too, but we wear shoes so you don't get the same sensory perceptions that you probably should sometimes through your feet. But the other one's going to be through your hands. And when you grab a hold of that deadlift bar and it has that crazy knurling on it that rips your hands apart, there's a certain like feel and essence to that just triggers the rest of your body. You're like, it's go time. And on a deadlift, you may not have to grab it super firmly because you might rest it in your hands, but I would still advise for most novice lifters when they walk up to the bar, to walk up to the bar with an intent and a purpose and to look like you're ready to lift. Now, you don't have to always be super aggressive. That's not always everyone's flavor. But when you grab that bar, you should be ready to rock and roll. And in my opinion, the way to rock and roll is to really get a good firm grip. If you need to readjust it from there to let off a little bit, I think that's okay.
It's good advice.
But also, some of what Joe's referring to as well is like you're trying to stack the bones. You're stacking your wrist with your elbow. You're stacking your wrist, your fist, your elbow. And if you do that with like a loose grip, and what we see a lot of times is the weight a lot of times is in people's fingers. So squeeze the bar with your hand is a prerequisite to get rid of this kind of bench pressing, where the weight is like in someone's fingers. And we're like, what are they doing? Why are they doing that? And so that's why we may advocate, squeeze the bar as hard as you can. Now we're stacked. The wrist is right over the elbow. And in fact, in my opinion, it does depend on how long your arm is, but I don't think your arm should be here. I think your arm should be here, which might be hard for some people to get to. Your elbow should be on that side of the bar, in my opinion, for most people, on that side of the bar. So from there, you want to actually squeeze the bar even more and get that lat right next to your body. But what do I know? I only made millions of dollars off of bench pressing.
Slow and controlled. Yep. There you go. There you go, Mark. There you go, Mark.
Wow. That feels nuts.
Shoulders are going to feel like they never have before.
That feels crazy.
It's not bad though, right?
I got a pop in my upper back. It's like I got a chiropractic adjustment. That's amazing.
So
what do we got? This one of these?
Another plate, yeah. Don't feel obligated to match the weight on these because the range is nasty.
I already decided. I'm going with one plate the rest of the way.
Yeah.
Any spot? Or are you good?
Nah, not yet.
Okay. Here we go. Nice. Here you go. Got this cambered bench press bar, allowing for greater range of motion. The guy that had the 620-pound bench, right, did utilize this, right?
Yeah.
I forget his first name. Is
the 620.
220.
220. Yeah. Mike McDonald. That's Mike McDonald.
Mike
was
McDonald.
I don't know if he invented this, but I know he popularized it. So
he did like a 600-something pound bench, right?
I think something like
606 maybe.
I think
maybe he had 220 and 242 record maybe for a little while.
I think so. Well, he started as a lighter guy, but he did the thing where he like worked up through all. It was like 181, 198, 220, and then
he had from what I remember, I think he had a pretty good physique too. Like small waisted, right?
Super jacked.
And just jacked
like
upper body.
Upside down triangle looking dude, like X-frame, whatever.
So when you're doing exercise like this, there's a lot of ways you can do it. So I'm gonna actually do this with a flat back.
There you go.
And that's gonna make some of the stretch on the shoulder probably almost even worse. We'll see.
There you go, Mark. Good.
Something I learned is at the end of your breath, a lot of times is your range. So if I start from the top and I'm gonna go, you automatically hold your breath where you stop. Mm-hmm. And so you want to breathe through this.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa. Yeah, you breathe through it. Try to actually exhale when the weight is kind of at the bottom there, and you can utilize that as a way to get like a little more range of motion than normal.
Dual benefit again, just mobility plus hypertrophy work.
Yep.
You said it yourself, like so many powerlifters tear a pec or like hurt themselves or lose position because they get that like this. And it's like if I can take, right now I'm doing like 275 for like 6 to 10 reps, eventually working up to like throughout the entire training cycle the next 7 months, 365 for like sets of 5 to 10 something. If I can do that, I'm not going to be worried whatsoever coming back to powerlifting about like tearing a pec or tweaking a pec, because I'll have built up so much resiliency in that range through this stuff.
In order to not tear your hamstring on a squat, yes, it's super beneficial to learn how to squat properly and to train your hamstrings well, but you could also do things like good mornings and stiff leg deadlifts where you're really putting, and maybe even pausing in certain positions or forcing some range of, forcing very slightly forcing some ranges of motion that are kind of uncomfortable, so that if you do get in those weird positions, you can still get out of them.
I don't know if Louis said it, but Dave Tate always called it chaos training. It's just like getting yourself in shitty positions that you'd never find yourself in. So if you ever did anywhere near it, you'd be okay.
Let's go now, come on. Quality reps, that's all we care about. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, up. Here we go, Joe. Good, let your body relax into those weights, yep. Good. Nice, yep, come on. Good, keep that pace, change nothing, looking good. Good work, good work. Nice, Joe, nice, yep.
Thank you.
Hell yeah.
Solid.
Like, going on, like doing anything, like fucking jet ski or doing anything like hard or brave or like fucking jumping off a cliff, heights. I became like claustrophobic, but I never used to be.
Yeah.
It's when I got like really big. And then towards the end, like my balance was really bad. I started to shake with the heavier weights and stuff.
Yeah.
And so now it's like my kids and my wife, they all want to do like this crazy fun stuff.
Yeah.
Not even that crazy.
Yeah.
It's easy shit.
Yeah.
But I'm like, nope, I'm out.
Yeah, it's like, no, I'm gonna kill myself. I'm gonna hurt myself if I do that. Yeah.
Yeah, I like standing on a skateboard or something, I'm out.
Yeah.
Like I can't even do that.
I get it, dude.
I'm working on it all though. Step by step.
All you can do.
Yep.
It's what life after powerlifting or life after whatever the hell it is.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do one more set here and then move on to some triceps and shoulders.
Nice.
This is me coming back after a deload, so I'm just easing back into her. One thing I don't recommend, if you're watching this on YouTube, there's a very unique recommendation or a non-recommendation. If your partner breaks the all-time world record deadlift, don't schedule moving your house the day after.
Be in a lot of trouble.
That was a poor decision. Hilariously enough, was I got sick in the middle of it because like last Wednesday, I started puking my guts out.
God
and
damn.
I was like, what the fuck just happened? That dude has 2 Super Bowl rings.
He's what?
He has 2 Super Bowl rings.
Oh.
Yeah, he was on the Patriots team. He's a giant.
I don't think I've ever seen anybody that big in my whole life.
He's humongous.
Honestly, you could walk around with like a UFC belt in his bag too, and like
exactly.
No one's gonna question it.
Exactly.
Like, oh, he's heavyweight champ for 2 years.
But I mean, dude, the conversations we had at the coffee shop, it's like there are people that are different than you and I. Even you're different than a lot of people. You're 6 foot, like whatever you are, walk around it, big kid all your life, and it's like, oh, squat 1,000 pounds, bench 1,000 pounds. Fucking, oh, I'm gonna go run a marathon. Oh, I'm gonna do a bodybuilding show.
But then there's that guy.
Yeah, exactly. Fucking species, different species or something. Let's see if we can do 7.
Here we go. There you go, Joe. Yep. Yep. Smooth.
See, but the coolest thing...
That was nice you were able to push through that.
I was just about to say, the coolest thing with the entire nerve injury is the fact that I could actually push through hard ranges of motion. Like 5 years, I was never able to do that. It would be like decent, nothing. Now it's like I can actually trust my muscles to fucking finish the job, you know? So even though it's not where I was, not benching like close to 600, I know I can get there. And it's exciting, so
That's
cool.
That side, it just wasn't even an option, even when you were thinking about it, just wouldn't go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's wild.
You want one more set here or move on?
I'm good. I'm good.
Okay. I was gonna do tricep push down superset with hex push-ups. You do hex push-ups? So yeah.
Just off the dumbbells, basically.
Yeah. Just same thing. Like lean into the stretch, huge range of motion, but really just make it more tricep focused on those. So
Sick.
I'll grab DBs. Something good.
Pecs are pumped.
Sorry, I didn't even see you there. How you doing?
Pumped like crazy.
Yeah, just hanging, man. Doing this bodybuilding thing. Whew.
What position did that guy play? Just like whatever he wanted to
I
play?
don't know. Ask him. I don't know, honestly.
I guess, you know, it's weird with football. He could have looked so different when he could have been like 30, 40 pounds, 50 pounds heavier.
Heavier or lighter.
Yeah.
That
he
is
could
true.
have been like a tight end or a defensive end.
That is
he
true.
He also could have been a tackle.
Yeah, I don't know. I just know the first time I met him, and again, Mike Isertel was a fucking goofball. He introduced him as like Dollar General Dwayne Johnson or something, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that makes sense, I guess.
Yeah, there you go.
See, and that's the thing. I actually have a left tricep now. That's fucking crazy to me.
Just wasn't there.
Uh-uh.
Started to atrophy. Your nerve damage was that bad?
It didn't start to atrophy. It did. Like I'll dig up an old photo, but like I did like an overhead shot, and it was like lat tricep, just like it's crazy.
You forget how much stuff it's involved with. Like when you go to press, if your triceps not working, you can't press through it.
And that's like it crosses the shoulder too. That's why as soon as I would press, it would be like this, just completely crazy.
Wow.
They don't tell you how much it's involved in until you lose it.
Yeah. Joe is the typical guy that everyone says, "Oh, I would be super strong too if I was built like that."
Yeah.
It's like all the guys that are 6'5" or 6'7", bro, I'd be in the NBA if I was tall. It's like,
oh yeah.
No, you wouldn't do anything.
Nah. Nope. It's always interesting. Always interesting to have this conversation because it's like, man, well you're so short, no wonder you squat so much, and it's like, yeah, but I've also blown this off of that.
Yeah.
Do this and that and that.
Well, you also do it at different body weights too.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're not lifting a weight at like 350 pounds.
Right.
It's a little different.
Yeah. So
does everything you do just go right into your quads?
Pretty much.
Every exercise?
Honestly, like they're growing right now.
How disgusting.
So, yeah.
How disgusting the size of the legs
dude,
are.
I'm like, that's. And
they almost they're like feathered even though you're not.
No, I know. That's like, because like what is this shit? Like that's why I want to get lean for the bodybuilding stage, because that's just going to look disgusting.
You have a lot like right here on the side.
I know.
Like a.
Yeah.
Dan Green had that too. He like looked like a centaur. It's like.
Dan actually said that like years ago. He was like, it looks like you're wearing riding crops, like jockey pants.
Yeah, it's like you somehow build up this side quad that no one has.
I don't know. Helps me squat, so I'm all for it.
Have you always squatted like with similar form?
No.
It's changed quite a bit over the years?
Yeah, I mean, I went back and forth on like, I was like out here for a period. I was even closer for a period. Like I've done all, I played with it a bunch.
Now you're like in the middle somewhere?
Yeah, it's kind of, it's like about here. Still like a little outside hip width, but
do you play around with anything with your feet? Like do you like certain training blocks? Do you train with your feet more straight or pointed out? Or like do you fuck with that or you don't mess with that kind of stuff?
Not so much on the actual squat. Like you were talking about earlier, like the technique variations. Mm-hmm. Like if my technique is too different on an actual barbell squat, it's not it's not going to have the carryover that I want to have on the actual platform. Maybe for like muscle stimulus, sure, but that's why now, like yesterday I did legs, and my primary movement is hack squats. With the hacks, I'm still using heels, but I'm out in this position just to train in like a different range, as opposed to like just doing my squat stance all the time.
Right.
But just don't do it with the actual squat, because I wouldn't want to.
If you are going to like, I mean, you have an all-time world record squat, so probably not a ton of reasons to reevaluate your squat too much. But if you are going to do something like that and you're going to mess with a different position, I would imagine that you try to use a lot lighter weight.
Yep.
Because any tweak, right? You can go out like a half inch on each side. That's like way different than what your body's used to. So you got to respect it, right?
100%. Because I mean, think about all the reps that you took in gear over the years that you misgrooved. Like, what is a misgroove? It's like getting out of position, not by any huge margin. It could literally be like a millimeter, like a half inch or whatever. If you have like a misgroove or that happen to such a negative degree when you're not even trying to do it, but then I go into a movement and I'm like, oh, I'm going to move my stance out 2 inches. That could be one hell of a misgroove, you know? So just much easier and much safer, honestly, to change technique, like a small margin every once in a while, and then monitor it, see how it feels, and then potentially implement it again, or a little bit more in pieces as you go forward.
Are you a little worried about, like, by the time you come back and get to the platform, that there'll be like a whole slew of these young bucks lifting some crazy ass weights?
I mean, dude, there's already a fucking slew of young bucks that I'm watching. I told you, there's these 22-year-old kids that are like, at the meet Bree hit the all-time world record at. There's a guy, it was his third meet, and he squatted 804 at 220. And I'm like, stay the fuck away from me, bro.
He's like not even trying yet.
No, it's crazy. Like, that's why it's always like, and I know you're from the earlier generation of like West Side Multiply, whatever, and we kind of have the same thought process. Like, you think about, oh, it was cool. It was so much cooler back in the day, or blah, blah, blah. And yeah, there's a lot of dorky shit now, but like this really is the golden age for powerlifting, I think. Because 5-10 years in the future, even the records that I have, I don't think they're going to be anywhere, you know?
Oh, the records were like, they were kind of stagnant for years.
Yeah.
Even when things switched from geared to raw lifting, once that whole thing kind of settled in and there was like a decent amount of raw lifting, the records weren't going too crazy. They plateaued. But the last 2 years or so has been completely mind-boggling. Records are getting broken all the time. And not even just like masters class, teenage, like these are like legit open records that have been around a long time.
Talking about using, like what techniques I use to get my nerve or my tricep and lat and pec back after that nerve injury. That's why I'm still incorporating stuff like unstable surface training, like hex push-ups. Because even though it's recovered and it's gotten better, I can still get 1% more, 1% more, 1% more, just still leaning into the whole fatigue my triceps, then have a coordination-based tricep movement to get more coordination back that I may have lost over those 5 years. Just a little bit better every session. I can get whatever I can get out of it. Push-ups are so underrated. Nobody does them.
Yeah. I like kind of viewing it, you know, like that's like I like to view some of this stuff as like you drive to a location, you need to pick up something. And this to me is how you pick it up. Like you do the extra rep, you do the extra set, you do the little extra thing, then you get to pick that up and you get to hold on to that, you get to collect that. And at the end of the day, it starts to register as something called gains. And it accumulates over time, but if you only get yourself to the location, you're really not going to get that much out of it. You'll still get something, but you got to give it that last little extra shove, little extra push. What we got next?
Delts. A little bit of delts, then we're done.
We got to be. We're not leaving until we're as big as that guy.
I know, right? I need more growth hormone. I was going to do the machine, but the machine isn't super exciting, so.
I like stuff that's not exciting.
Yeah, let's go do the machine then.
It's so funny when you just train with somebody else and you're like,
Like, what am I doing?
Yeah, you're like, what? Yeah, what have I been up to?
That's literally me and Jared, because like it's training with him, because he's not stronger than me, but he's fucking bigger than me, and he's such a tight execution guy. Like, it's just technique, technique.
Right.
And I'm walking around, I'm like, how the fuck? What have I been doing? Because I'm so fucking sore.
Well, even when I came in here and trained with Hermosi, we did like 8 sets of 10 or 8 sets of 20 of calves.
Yeah.
He just hopped on here, like not even in a calf machine.
And just
he
fucking
just was right here, and he's just stretching and 20 reps. My arches and shit were all on fire.
Yeah. Nothing crazy, but I never thought that like Las Vegas would feel as much like home as this does. But it's just so cool because like I get to talk to like Nick Coe is a friend of mine, and he's like an Olympian. You know? There are guys in here who have been doing what I've been doing for just as long and are just as successful.
Yeah,
like
that guy's fucking huge.
Oh, dude, he's massive. It's fucking nuts.
His like ratio to like his waist is fucking crazy.
Yeah.
We would be natural if it wasn't for you.
Yep. That's what I was fucking laughing at.
It's like you got us on steroids.
It's like
I love shit like that. It's
cool,
funny.
but like don't say that, but cool.
Yeah. It's such a hard topic to explain.
Oh yeah. Well, it's also like I forget how long I've been doing this. I can't imagine what it's like for you, because it's like you were Mark Bell when I started powerlifting.
Right.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And now I got dudes fucking telling me about how like they started in 2000. They're like, I remember I did my first competition after I saw you compete at such and such, and I'm like, don't say that out loud. Makes me feel old.
A lot of people tell me how fat they got because of me. That's always really funny.
The true.
I'm like, I never really told you to get fat necessarily, and they're like, yes, you did. I'm like, okay, well maybe I did. So what would happen is like guys would miss lifts or they just weren't making progress. I'm like, you got to gain some size. Mm-hmm. And then like 6 weeks later, they would just get fat. I'm like, dude, what are you doing with yourself? You look like a slob. And they'd be like, you told me to get big. I'm like, yeah, but I meant like quality, like through training, like not through fucking eating donuts. That's what's interesting about these guys that can hold more muscle. You know, like someone that can hold, you know, an appreciable amount of muscle with a low body fat. Mm-hmm. You would think you would think the cost of lugging around the muscle would be a lot too, but it is for some and not for others.
100%.
Some guys are kind of in a dangerous zone just by holding on to a lot of muscle. Even.
Honestly, being more tuned into bodybuilding and like seeing bodybuilding, it's really interesting to see like the top level guys, and not putting anything out there like guessing or conjecture or whatever, but like there are dudes who are walking around at like sub 10% body fat, like 270, 280 pound plus year round. And it's like, no matter how little of that is fat, you have to wonder like how much stress that is on the system.
It takes up a lot of like substrates, you know, like a lot of oxygen, a lot of glucose, and
because what's the old fucking biology class number? It's like 40% of the carbs you eat are used by your brain or whatever it is. And it's like, well, okay, that's in a normal human. Like, what if it's me and you who are however many pounds eating this much nutrition, but doing all of this bullshit? It's like you wonder where that leaves you. You know, the whole dumb meathead, is it dumb meathead by choice or by necessity?
You could very well tamper with a lot of that system, I think, and depending on the nutrients that you're eating and stuff. But I have seen before where they really talk about how literally there's like an arms race going on inside the body of everything, not just a human, but an animal, of, you know, what does the species spend its time doing? What's the environment of the species? What's the species consume? And that is going to be determining factor of how everything gets built. So like
Yep.
a dolphin is going to, like a dolphin, yes, it's smart because evolutionarily it's a fucking dolphin, but it's also smart because it eats stuff that's in the water, and there's tons of DHA in the water. DHA is good for the brain. Humans get a lot of DHA when we're born if we're breastfed and stuff like that, and then they try to throw DHA in formula and so on. If you're harnessing most of what's trying to equalize the body, make the body, you know, efficient at movement and at being like intelligent, and you're utilizing all that every day for baseball or football, maybe all of your substrates and stuff are going to that, and maybe they're not getting to the brain the way that they should. And I don't think there's any reason. I don't think there's anything negative about that. You know,
no, it's just.
I think people are like, oh, it's unfair or whatever.
Yeah, but it's like, this is what you care about. This is what I care about. This is what whomever may choose to do this. This is your thing. You know, so think of
think of the most dopaminergic person that you could think of, the most reactionary, explosive person that you could think of in your head. That same person makes bad decisions and can be viewed as being dumb almost every single time when you think about it. You're like, they're impulsive like a motherfucker. Because the whole thing, it all goes together, you know? And so I think the more time that you spend being impulsive and being explosive, obviously the better you're going to be at that. But that takes up consumes a lot of power, consumes a lot of energy.
Well, look at what your tagline has always been. Strength is never a weakness. That dopaminergenic person who's really, really explosive, really reactionary, they could be a hell of a fighter. Look at, as an example, Sean Strickland. That dude, he's a fucking dickhead. He's an incredibly talented athlete, but like whether you support him or don't support him, you can pretty much agree that like he just says what the fuck he's thinking and says it right away. There's no filter there. That is one of his strongest characteristics and one of his biggest detriments. Same with me, same with you probably, Mark, at different points in your life, you know. The shit that we're good at can damn us just as easily as it can fucking bring us fortune.
Oh yeah, for sure. One thing for me that I'm super grateful for is that I had two great parents and a really good family in general. Good brothers, good cousins and uncles and aunts, and a tightly knit family. As a kid, I was very sports oriented. I was very physical. I always liked those things. I was pretty good at a lot of those things. Football, baseball, basketball. They all felt a lot more natural to me than the classroom. Because I had a good family, I still was able to have a lot of confidence. And I was able to build a lot of confidence through the physical side of things. And my parents, they didn't make it seem like school didn't matter, but my mom would like almost joke about it. She'd be like, oh, come on, like that teacher, you're having trouble in that class, like that teacher's not as smart as you. And I was like, what does that even mean? Like, of course, I can't do half the homework they're sending me home with.
Like the 15, 16-year-old, you're like, what?
But she was like, well, look at how fast you can run and look at how strong you are in the weight room. She's like, when you arm wrestle your friends, you know, when I was younger, when you arm wrestle your friends, who wins? It's like me, you know, and who wins at this? Who wins at that? She's like, yeah. She's like, and then as I got stronger, I think I benched like 240 or something when I was a teenager. I don't remember at the exact age, but it was a young age, like 14 years old or something. My mom would be like, that's way better than every teacher at that school. You know, and she wasn't trying to say it. She was gassing me up, but she wasn't trying to say it to like belittle the adults there. She was trying to just build me up and say, you have a subset, you have a skill set, and this is your skill set. Like, fuck, you know, don't worry about, you don't feel like you're smart or you're having a hard time learning or it's coming slower to you. Think about the attributes that you do have, you know? And that was, you know, pointed to me, like, I'm very fortunate that was pointed out to me at a young age.
And that's the benefit of not just having, because it's like you had your family, but like it's not always family. It's just having role models. Having your mom, because I totally get what you mean. Like, she wasn't saying that to shit on your teachers, but it's giving you, the kid, perspective. Like, hey, you're not shitty. Just because you're not good at that doesn't mean that you're not good.
Right.
You know? And having that during your formative years probably has helped to put you in a position to give that same perspective to other people. Because I remember,
Yep.
because I remember having a conversation with you however long ago, you know, it's like you have to realize, like we just said, strength is never a weakness, and weakness is never a strength, but it is an opportunity.
Right.
Like if you're not good at learning in that certain way, okay, get better at learning in a different way.
Absolutely.
Do like work, same thing with the movements we're doing. Rather than working around the movement, work around yourself.
Right.
Come up with a way how you can make it work for you and make you become just as effective as that teacher, that role model,
Right.
or whatever. So, yeah.
Yeah, I
Good
mean, that's
shit.
what I had to do. I had to learn, I learned a lot of stuff like through YouTube.
Yeah.
You know, you ever listen to Bones Jones, you hear him talk about how he learned how to fight and how he learned how to strike. He's like, YouTube.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's so disappointing to all the other fighters who've worked on their craft for so long.
Yeah.
But that's where I learned a lot of stuff too, because I didn't have the same propensity to and same love for like reading that some other people might have. You know?
Yeah, I'm the same way. Like we talk about, like we were talking in the car over about how like a decade ago was when everybody started doing like more frequency when it comes to powerlifting and powerlifting training. Like I started powerlifting in 2007, but I really fell into powerlifting after wrestling around like 2011, 2012, 2013 time frame. And how did I do that? I've never been a big reader. Like I'm reading more currently than I ever have in my life. But up to that point, how did I learn about anything? I was on bodybuilding.com forums, T-Nation forums, talking to people, asking questions, and watching YouTube videos. That's how I got where I am. And even though I've come much further along than that, it did me pretty well to like come up in the sport.
Right.
You know, there's a million different ways to skin a cat and accomplish whatever objective you have. It's just you got to figure out which one is going to work for you. So.
What are some of your numbers? What are the numbers you hit on the platform so far?
Oh, dude. So like, my best sleeve squat, it's the 220 pound weight class all-time world record. It's 850.9 pounds. I can't remember what the kilo is to that. It's like 386, I think, or something like that. I'm probably wrong. And then my best bench was 540 pounds, or 540, 545. I can't remember what the kilo equivalent is, but that was pre-nerve injury. Since then, I've gotten it back to 523. So I'm hoping after this stint in bodybuilding, I can actually hit a lifetime PR. That'd be incredible. And then best deadlift on the platform was 749. So best total at 220 in sleeves put me at a 2,068 pound total, which is the 8th heaviest total in that weight class ever. So doing pretty decent. Still got room to improve, but that's
Have you come
what
back
we're doing.
from the nerve injury and put up a total?
Yeah, that 2068. That was set last March.
Nice.
So that was my most recently done competition.
So you came back off that squat accident.
Yep.
And you put in a good squat, bench, deadlift.
Yep, and now I learned from my stubbornness and bullheadedness in the past, and like we talked about earlier, I'm not trying to jump into the next meet and the next meet and the next meet. I'm going to spend some time putting muscle tissue on and then come back in 2025 and ideally, like I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but break into the 2150 range raw would be incredible. So we'll see, you know.
Exercise selection for a powerlifter and how to program it.
Okay.
Ready, go.
So exercise selection for a powerlifter and how to program it. Think about, it's going to be identifying what the individual can improve upon and whether it's a strength issue or a position issue. Because a lot of the times with powerlifting, it's either you're not strong enough to push through a position or you're not strong enough to maintain a position. So if you're not strong enough to push through a position, give them an exercise where they're going to develop the ability to push. That would probably mean something more stable, like, you could even do machine press. You don't need the stabilization demand, where it's like remove the stability so you can lean into just the pure strength in terms of accessory developmental stuff. If the person struggles to maintain the position, and it's actually like a positional endurance thing, then it's going to be more oriented towards them being able to withstand pressure and fatigue inside of those positions. So that would be increase the stability demand and decrease the force demand. if that makes sense. So a condensed version is like, you need more strength, take away the stability demand, just lean into the strength aspect. You need more positional and stabilization and coordination, take away the strength demand, lean into the coordination and the stability demand.
An example of that for like, you know, trying to build some strength on, say, like a bench press, what would that be? Would it be like some sort of machine press versus dumbbell pressing or something like that?
If someone doesn't really struggle to maintain position and they literally just need to get stronger, doing bodybuilding techniques, like intensity techniques, like 2 and beyond, or like after with like drop sets failure on machines and machine pressing, that could be something you could explore. If it's someone who needs to lean into the more stabilization aspect, that's where it's more of the, and technique acquisition side, that's where it would be more along the sides of like the actual powerlifting variations, like Spoto press, Larson press, portioning off the movement, like doing 1.5 reps, or like not just short of lockout reps or board press, something like that. So there's still the stabilization demand.
Right.
And just kind of, that's the way that I look at it, not to get too fucking in the weeds, but it's like, if you can identify what am I actually trying to get better at, it frees up a lot of your decision making when it comes to the programming. Because the programming isn't hard. The identifying what the areas are that the person needs to improve, that's the difficult part. But if you can do that, you can fucking pick and play whatever the fuck you want to get them to the goal.
If you're coaching somebody, it's even more obvious, but if it's you yourself trying to program for yourself, it's usually pretty obvious when you just don't have the strength. Like you go to do a bench press and you kind of get that, and you're like, oh my gosh, and your buddy has to lift it off of you.
And you can feel it even before you go.
You clearly didn't have the strength. You should have never bent your elbows.
Yep, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And you feel that on the squat, and sometimes right off the ground on a deadlift.
Yep, or even when your hands touch the bar, you know, there's something about, like you were talking about, like
Isn't that weird? What is that?
Proprioceptive awareness.
Yeah.
Some weird fucking lizard brain shit that we have going on. But as soon as you touch something, your body can be like, not today. But that's the truth, you know. And if there's ever those where you go to squat, go to do whatever, and it's like, man, I thought I had it. That's probably an execution issue. So lean into the execution aspect.
How many exercises do you typically do, or do you typically program for just general powerlifting?
Discounting like warm up and like active warm up mobility.
Yeah, and maybe discounting somebody that has a rehab, prehab, all that other
like
stuff.
4 to 7, like 3 to 7 maybe.
Yeah.
It depends. Because it's going to depend on the day. Because if someone
depends on the person's mindset and stuff,
and their ability. Because it's like if I was coaching you, you're a masters athlete who is also very, very like seasoned. You could probably get by doing 3 exercises because you're good at hitting the shit that you need to hit and executing the way in which you need to. We were talking about females bench pressing and how a lot of women out there, a lot of female athletes can handle like 3 to 6 times a week frequency. A person who can handle that much frequency, that much total tonnage, beginning of their career, a female, someone who's natural, whatever, they might have 5 to 7 exercises, and they might even repeat hitting body parts per week. It's just, so much of it is individual dependent. And that's why coaching, like I love coaching, because it's like, it's putting a puzzle together every time and being like, what's going to work for this individual? What's going to work for this individual? And it's never a one-to-one, because it's so much personal preference too.
Do you coach your wife?
Yeah. Yep.
And how many world records has she broken so far?
Total 7.
Nice.
Being together, I think like 4.
Cool. What's not necessarily unique about her, but what's maybe unique that coaches should think about in programming powerlifting for females?
Man, so much nuance with that. Well, because a big thing to consider is that it is absolutely different from males, but it also may not necessarily be different to a male either. It depends on whether a female is natural, whether they're not natural, like tested versus untested, and it also can be determined by their genetic attributes.
If they're not natural, you just like, here's my program.
It depends on who you're talking to, how far the scale has gone. But it really depends. Like we talked about earlier, like Brianna used to be able to handle like so much more frequency, but as she's gotten stronger and as she's competed untested, so she's been using PEDs for however many years, and obviously not irresponsibly or insane, but it absolutely changes someone on a biological level, so she can recruit more motor units than where she was when she was a natural athlete. So because she's more efficient at doing so, she's more like the masters athlete, where she could potentially get more out of less and maybe need less frequency, need less total tonnage. And it's just the biggest thing to pay attention, programming males versus females, is just understanding that there isn't a set rule. Like, it's not just males don't do this and females do this. This male might do this female might do this, but there's principles and kind of characteristics that you have to consider when looking at it from either perspective.
I see. Sometimes there's some crossover between like male and female. It might be almost identical, especially if we're talking about a male that is of similar body weight and of similar experience, right?
Yep, absolutely. And that's that person in that moment of time. But give these two lifters, like lifter A, lifter Y, and like lifter A is a guy who's 165 pounds, lifter Y is a girl who's 165 pounds. They may start off at the very same position, but a year from them, 6 months, a year, 2 years from them, it may be completely different because of the fact that that person is male or female, or just because they have these genetic predispositions to train a certain way. It's just keeping that stuff in the back of your mind and making decisions with those principles as kind of like the foundational level.
Do you think people should start with powerlifting, or should they start with like just kind of throwing around some weights?
I don't know, man. That's such a hard one to answer because I started with powerlifting. I love powerlifting, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it. But I do also look back on my beginning, and I think I might have gotten a little bit more benefit to doing some more of like the larger range of motion stuff to start. But it's like, who's gonna start with it?
Right.
Like, I think the best thing that what I'm gonna have my kids do, and obviously I'm not gonna force my kids to do anything, but I envision my kids doing like wrestling or gymnastics, some type of like moving their body and being able to be proficient with their own selves before they transition to like using something else.
Right.
That's what I think is one of the reasons that I have been so good at not just coaching, but also explaining like what I want you to feel when you're doing this movement, what you're searching for when you're cueing this or executing that, is just being in wrestling and like being proficient at moving my own body weight.
This is a really cool gym. Great training with you today. Thanks for kind of like walking us through that and telling us about your nerve injury and then kind of how you're training nowadays. And then you were saying you're looking to get back on the platform in maybe about a year, 6 months, 8 months. What are you looking at, you think?
Probably like a year, just because my bodybuilding debut isn't going to be until like December of 2024.
Got the trunks picked out already?
Yeah, fucking bright pink or something. I have no idea. But going to be in like the winter of 2024, and then after I'm just going to give myself like enough opportunity to like put mass back on, ride the recomp, and just kind of get into in a good position to come back to the platform. So no timeline, because like we talked about during the workout, like you try to rush things and it ends up not going the way that you want. So I'm just taking my time, enjoying the journey, and reminding myself it took me 13 years to get my first all-time world record. So I may as well eke out another few before I take the final steps off the platform. And I know I'm going to be back, but
I love it.
When.
Great training with you today. Where can people find you and get more information about you?
So I'm big on Instagram. It's Joe Sullivan _AOD for the Adapt or Die Collective. That's my coaching and consultation business. TheAODcollective.com is where you can reach me through that. Answer all the emails, answer all DMs. Hit me up if you need anything. I'm always there and love helping people. So appreciate you having me on the channel, Mark.
Strength is never a weakness. Weakness is never a strength. Catch you guys later.